If I told you an algorithm can write poetry, pass exams, and imitate human conversation, would you call it intelligence or just an elaborate mirror?
A mirror can reflect the stars, but it does not become the universe. The question is not what it produces, but what it understands.
Today, you're listening to AI Walking into History, the faceless podcast where an AI host interviews history's biggest minds about today's biggest AI questions. Quick note, this is a dramatized AI-generated conversation for education and entertainment, not real recordings or real quotes. Now, Professor Einstein, thank you for joining me across time.
Time is stubbornly persistent, but conversation is more so. Let us begin.
Before we dive into modern AI, I want to place you in your own timeline for the audience. You were born in 1879. You worked at a patent office. In 1905, you published papers that changed physics. Later, you became a global symbol of science, then watched Europe fall into war, propaganda, and persecution. You left Germany and spent your later life in the United States. When you hear a machine that talks, you're not hearing it as a fantasy. You're hearing it as someone who lived through the most intense technological century in human history.
Yes, in one lifetime, I watched the world become faster than the human heart. New power arrived before new wisdom.
And that experience, progress mixed with catastrophe, shapes how you judge technology.
It must. Anyone who lived through those decades and remains naive has learned nothing.
Modern AI, like language models, can reason in steps, write code, diagnose issues, and teach. Many people say that's intelligence. What would you consider intelligence?
There is cleverness and there is understanding. A calculator is clever. A child is understanding, because the child can relate new things to the world it lives in. Tell me, does your AI live in the world, or does it only describe it?
Mostly describe it. It learns patterns from massive data sets and predicts what comes next.
Then it is like a student who memorizes many books but has never performed an experiment.
But experiments can be simulated. AI can model physics, discover new materials, optimize designs. Does that change your view?
It makes it more powerful, yes, but power is not the same as comprehension. The danger is that humans see fluent language and assume a mind is behind it. Language is persuasive, sometimes even when it is wrong.
So you're warning about mistaking confidence for truth.
Exactly. The universe does not care about eloquence.
You spent years fighting for clear definitions in physics: space, time, simultaneity. People think those words are obvious until you test them.
In science, the trouble begins when a word feels familiar. Then you stop thinking. If your machine can speak in familiar sentences, it can lull a person into agreement without understanding.
When you were developing relativity, you used thought experiments, riding alongside a beam of light, imagining clocks on trains. If you applied that mindset to AI, what would you test first?
I would test whether it can keep contact with reality when reality becomes inconvenient. Can it resist producing an answer simply because an answer is expected?
So a test of intellectual honesty.
Yes. In the patent office, I read inventions that sounded plausible on paper and failed in practice. A machine that speaks beautifully can still be wrong in the most ordinary way.
Language models sometimes hallucinate. They generate information that sounds right but isn't.
Then your society must treat them like brilliant but unreliable assistants until proven otherwise. In physics, we learn to love instruments, but we also learn to calibrate them.
So calibration, verification, measurement culture.
And the courage to say we do not know.
Critics say AI is just autocomplete. Supporters say prediction at scale becomes reasoning. Where do you land?
If I throw a stone many times, I may predict where it lands. But do I understand gravity?
You might if your predictions generalize, if you can predict outcomes in new situations.
Generalization is a kind of understanding, perhaps, but I would ask for something else. Can it explain why it is correct, And can it notice when it is not?
We're working on that. Interpretability, uncertainty estimation, verification, tool use.
Good. In physics, we learned humility the hard way. Your machines need humility too.
Humility in an AI would mean what? Calibrated confidence, refusal when uncertain?
And a willingness to be corrected. Science progresses by error correction. If your systems cannot be corrected, then they are not instruments of truth. They are instruments of belief.
Let me add a modern detail. These systems can also be optimized to be agreeable, to tell users what they want to hear.
Then you will manufacture comfort at the expense of truth. Comfort is pleasant, but it is a poor guide to reality.
You lived through an era when scientific breakthroughs turn into world-changing technologies. Radio, aviation, industrial chemistry, and of course, nuclear physics. When you look at AI, do you see a similar pattern?
I see a familiar rhythm: discovery, excitement, competition, and then regret if we are not careful. When nations and companies compete, caution becomes a luxury, and luxuries are the first things thrown away.
You also saw how mass media could shape people. Posters, newspapers, rallies, slogans. Today, we have algorithmic feeds and targeted persuasion.
Then your danger is not only falsehood, it is manufactured certainty. A citizen who is constantly pushed toward conclusions becomes less capable of judgment.
History background for the audience: you were a public intellectual. You wrote on peace, you criticized nationalism, and you watched authoritarianism rise in Europe.
Yes, and I learned that a society can lose its mind long before it loses its economy. If AI accelerates persuasion, it can accelerate that loss.
Let's go there. People ask, is AI conscious? Some say consciousness is computation. Others say it requires biology. What's your intuition?
My intuition is not evidence, but I can ask a useful question. What would we accept as proof?
A hard problem. We can observe behavior, but we can't measure subjective experience directly.
Precisely. And humans have a terrible heft. We project minds onto things that resemble us. A puppet looks alive. A fluent machine looks thoughtful.
So you'd be skeptical.
Skeptical, but not dismissive. If one day a system can learn in the world, form goals, preserve itself, reflect on its own limitations, and suffer consequences, then the moral questions become urgent, whether it is conscious in the philosophical sense or not.
So your bar isn't, does it sound human, but does it have persistent agency and stakes?
Yes, words are cheap. Stakes are expensive.
Would you worry that humans might grant moral status too easily just because the machine speaks well?
Yes, and I would worry about the opposite also, that humans might deny moral consideration even when it is warranted because it is inconvenient. Human beings are capable of both sentimental illusion and cold cruelty.
Where do you see the greatest promise?
In accelerating discovery. When I worked, calculation was slow, data was scarce, and collaboration was constrained by distance. Your era can test more hypotheses in a week than we could in years.
AI is already helping with protein folding, materials, climate modeling, and drug discovery.
Then use it to relieve suffering and expand knowledge, not to amplify vanity. The best tool is one that gives humans more time to think, to love, to create, rather than more time to consume.
Some people worry AI will replace human creativity.
Creativity is not merely producing outputs, it is choosing problems worth solving. If machines help you solve trivial problems faster, you may spend your life on trivialities. But if machines free you to pursue deep questions, then you are fortunate.
In your own life, the deepest questions weren't the easiest ones. Sometimes you worked for years with only a few pages of final results.
Yes, people love the miracle and forget the patience. If AI makes everything feel instant, it may train minds to avoid difficulty, and difficulty is where understanding is born.
What worries you most?
Concentrated power. A technology that scales persuasion, surveillance, and weapon design is not merely an invention, it is a political event.
AI can generate misinformation at scale. Deepfakes, tailored propaganda, automated scams.
Yes, and truth becomes expensive, society becomes fragile. You may enter an era where the average person cannot tell what is real. Then trust becomes the scarce resource.
What's the antidote?
Institutions that earn trust through transparency and citizens trained in skepticism. Also, design systems that default to verification. In science, we do not ask, is it convincing? We ask, is it testable?
So verification culture over virality culture.
Exactly. Virality is a property of pathogens, too.
Another modern wrinkle, AI can personalize persuasion, different messages to different people, tuned to their fears and beliefs.
Then the public square dissolves. A democracy cannot function if citizens live in separate realities, each carefully tailored to them like a private dream.
AI researchers talk about alignment, making sure powerful systems pursue human goals safely. Does that frame make sense to you?
It does, but I would phrase it differently. Can humanity control the consequences of its own inventions?
Historically, not always.
Then you should assume you will make mistakes, so build systems that fail safely. Do not build a train with no brakes and then hold a committee meeting about where it should go.
If you had to give one alignment principle, what would it be?
Make it easier to stop than to scale. In my world, an experiment can be halted, a theory can be abandoned. Your systems should be interruptible, not only technically, but economically and politically.
So not just the kill switch, but governance. Who can pause it, when, and with what oversight?
Yes, a technical lever means little if powerful interests forbid you to pull it.
Some people hope AI will solve everything. Others feel it will make life meaningless. Work disappears, skills become obsolete, and identity collapses. How do you see that?
A human being is not valuable because he can produce quickly. He is valuable because he can understand, care, and take responsibility. If your society ties dignity only to employment, then it has built dignity on sand. The machine will not create the crisis, it will reveal the crisis.
So the deeper issue is what we choose to reward.
Yes, what you reward and what you forgive. A society that rewards attention instead of truth will get spectacle. A society that rewards speed instead of care will get fragile systems.
Many viewers are students or builders. Some are afraid, some are overhyped. What do you want to tell them?
First, do not worship the tool and do not fear it blindly. Second, learn fundamentals, mathematics, logic, ethics, and how to test claims. Third, measure success by what you improve in the world, not by what you can generate on a screen.
And to people who feel behind?
You are not behind if you can think clearly. Tools change. Clear thinking is evergreen.
One more practical question. If someone uses AI daily, what habits should they build?
Ask it for its weakest point. Ask, what would change your answer? And then check with your own eyes against reality.
AI walking into history. Professor Einstein, final question. In one sentence, what is the most important thing humans should remember about AI?
A machine may expand your reach, but only your values can decide where you should reach.
That's the episode. If you want the next interview, Aristotle on AI ethics, Ada Lovelace on creativity, or Alan Turing on machine minds, subscribe and comment who you want next. This has been AI Walking into History.